I went to an all-girls school. I really struggled a lot. I hated it the whole way through.
Okay.
Struggled a lot with bullies. It took me 5 years to get into the military, and I didn't pass my aptitude test. And then I passed the aptitude, at which point I had a letter in the post saying, well done, you've been successful. You're joining in September.
Yeah.
I really want to be a commando helicopter pilot. I dreamt about it. And my life revolved around leading up to it. And every day during the course, like, this is the only thing in my life that matters right now. I wanted to pass more than anything. But I think looking back, it made me into the woman I am today.
Today's guest on the debrief, then, the accolades are too many to name right here and now, but serving Royal Naval Officer,
Yes.
serving Royal Navy Commando.
Yes.
Yeah, there's loads. I'm telling you, we're going to debrief for this one properly. Let's go. Lily, how are you?
Great. And thanks for having me. Great to be here.
No, thanks for coming. So, listen, I'm gonna do what I do with all my guests. I'm going to take you right back to the beginning where you all started and all that sort of stuff, and then we'll bring you through, and then we'll look where you're going. All right?
Yeah, well.
So, where did it start for little Lily? Where was you? What's your?
When I grew up. So I grew up just down the road in Virginia Water.
Oh, nice.
I know, very, very lucky upbringing.
Yeah, was it nice?
Very, very hard-working dad. My dad worked nights for...
Really? What did your dad do?
He wholesale fruit and veg back in
Wow.
before supermarkets, like supplied the whole of London, nights for 45 years.
Wow, really? So he was up at the
he's
crack
grafting.
of a sparrow's fart and
Yeah.
absolutely just nailing it every day.
Yeah, 6 days a week, all year round. So, yeah, really lucky to have that upbringing, and the dad, and then the mum, full-time mum.
Yeah, stayed together, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Stable background then.
Yeah, super stable. Like still together now.
Really?
Mum was.
I like that. It's not often you hear that either. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know,
it's nice.
Yeah, it's super rare. I think that obviously they had their difficulties, and I think they've stayed together for me and my brother to give us the kind of the stable.
Older
upbringing.
brother, younger brother?
Older brother, he's
Yeah.
32.
Does he look after you? Is he like an older brother?
No.
Is he? No, he look after him, do you?
I don't know. We were super close as kids.
Yeah.
Really close. He's quite sporty as well. But I would say he's the academic one in the family, very much so. Loves reading into all the books, and you have an argument with him, he's like, I'm going to get the Google Scholar article out and show you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay,
Done right,
whatever.
Mavi. You won. You won, mate. You're in.
Exactly. And now he works in London in a high-flying job, doing really well there, and I'm just like, I'm going to go travel and...
Okay, so
play
let's
sport
talk
and-
about your schooling then. Where did you go to school?
I went to school in Ascot.
Okay.
I went to an all-girls school from the ages of 10 to 15.
Was that boarding, was it?
No, it was day school, but
Okay.
I really struggled a lot there. I hated it the whole way through, start to finish. I had struggled a lot with bullies.
Really? What was it? What was the line of the bully? 'Cause I was bullied at school as well. I just didn't fit in anywhere I went.
No.
What was the sort of like? What was their torment?
It was. I was really into my sport.
Yeah.
Really driven. I wanted to play netball. I was playing netball, lacrosse, hockey, county level, regional level. I did athletics and pole vault. For me, school was about sport and being really good at sport.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Yeah, and I wasn't particularly smart, but we'll come back to that. And I just think the girls didn't like me being part of them, and they were a very wealthy school, kind of equivalent to Eton.
Great school.
Eton. And I didn't kind of fit in.
You were outside of the clique.
Yeah, my dad was. I remember one of the parents wouldn't talk to me.
Was that the fruit and veg thing, do you reckon?
Well, yeah, one of
he's a barra boy.
Yeah, he's very much a Cockney.
I don't want to talk to the barra boy's daughter.
Exactly. And like one of the parents were like, "Oh, you're the core Blimey family. You're the."
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so proud of my dad and my family.
Yeah, absolutely, and rightly so.
I just didn't fit in at all, and I left. But I think looking back, it made me into the woman I am today. Like I don't follow the pack. Maybe not the military's maybe not the right place to be, but I've carved my own path. I don't really want to be like anyone else, and I think that's a product of going to that school and not wanting to be like any of the girls.
Yeah, being set out
there.
to one side, but still being determined enough to do something about it and not just give up.
Yeah, exactly. And
so about college and that. So you went through school, you didn't like it, had enough of that.
Yeah.
Did you go to college?
I went to sixth form. Just
Right, so you
in
take
Reading.
some more school.
Yeah.
I don't know if you.
No, I'm still learning now. Age
Give me some
30. Yeah. I went to Reading Bluecoat, which was an all-boys school and mixed in sixth form. So this was my first experience of being in like a super male-dominated environment, and I never really left it since that point because I loved sixth form. I loved being in that environment, being around boys who want to play football at lunchtime.
Yeah.
I went on to be head girl there, and
wow. So what sort of stuff were you getting up to there?
I actually was in my kind of pole vaulting phase then. I wanted to go to the Junior Olympics at that kind of stage. I was studying for AS levels, A levels.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of A levels, I said to my dad, I think I'd like to take a year out and try and make it. And we kind of sat down, like try and make it in athletics. And I sat down at home, and Dad just kind of, I remember him saying, you know, if you don't make it, you've got nothing really to fall back on. You've got no university. Obviously, we're here for you, but he gently nudged me towards going to uni. So I left that school and then went on to uni.
What did you do in uni?
I studied geology at Imperial in London, and I loved that as well. I remember I struggled a lot with mental health and an eating disorder in that kind of phase of my life. And I remember uni being quite a lot of memories being tied back to that struggle. I loved uni.
What brought that on? Do you think some of you having to keep fit for the sport? Is it? I'll take it the eating disorder was to keep your weight down, not to put it on.
Yeah. As I was like 40 kilos. 40 kilos of myelitis. I'm like 65, 64 now.
Okay.
I don't know. I think I'm super obsessive, really obsessive personality, and I don't know what sparked me when I was about 10. I think the other girls at school were talking about their weight. Girls were talking about going to throw up at lunchtimes because they were overweight, and we were really young. It was really really concerning that if it happened for me, it's happening for other girls going through that stage. And that was a bit like, oh, she's really thin, so that means am I fat then? And like at 10, 11 years old, that was kind of implanted, and I was then just so driven to be thin for the next 10 years. But kind of trying to put a positive spin on this, that drive and that mindset, I've now still got that, but I've managed to like harness it in something positive. Yeah,
I've said this to a couple of people before. If you can drive yourself so hard that way, you can drive yourself just as easily that way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just got to take that step to turn it around, and that's very much down to yourself, like, to be honest. But
it is. It does.
Once you've done that, you just got to come flying out the other side. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
You're hoovering up opportunity then, isn't you? You know
exactly.
It's ridiculous.
I'm really fortunate to have got out of it, because when you're in there, it's super. I kind of thought there's no way out at some points. It's quite a dark place, and I hope that people listening today can be like,
40 kilos. You've carried heavier Bergens now.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, a lot of heavier Bergens. Yeah. But I hope that people can see like there is a way out of it, and see that as it's actually quite a positive trait, that drive. Just refocus it into something like with a positive outcome, and like you just said, you're on your way. Then the ball's rolling. That's a really kind of positive characteristic to have.
So you get yourself through uni.
Yeah.
What do you want to do then? You're still doing the sport stuff now, or you stepped off the gas a little bit? So I stepped off the gas a little bit, yeah. So I went to uni. I tried to continue pole vault, but I couldn't do it like I did before, having to go to uni and travel to where my coach was. There's a lot of commitment for these sports for young people, isn't there? If you're going to get anywhere near the top. Yeah, it's got to be full time. You've got to be on it. Yeah, definitely. So I stepped off the gas. I joined the swimming and water polo team at uni. I started gymming loads. And then the key change, I think, for my life in uni was I joined the University Air Squadron. Okay. Which I know Mandy Hickson also did. Yeah. Listening to her podcast earlier. And I was flying at uni. So basically any day you get off uni, you can go and fly and get paid £40 to go and do it. Yeah. I know. And I was like, this is great. And we were on a camp with regulars. Was that Chipmunks or something, was it? It was the Gob Tutor, the one after, the aircraft after Chipmunks. And we were on a camp with serving military guys on their elementary flying training, which is kind of the start of their flying career. And I just thought, this is so cool. All they do is fly, do fizz and drink. Like, this is not a job. I want to do this. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I want to do this. So that's kind of the spark
that got me set really towards the military. And I did CCF in the sixth form, which I really enjoyed as the only female in that, and like thrived in that. Went to uni, joined the UAS. I did the officer training corps for a year as well.
Okay. How'd you find that?
I didn't like it because at the time, ironically, I didn't like being in the field.
Okay.
So going on to what I've done now is,
Get off me.
I know. I hated being cold, wet, and miserable, and I didn't like the hardship at that time that brought. And I was like, going out on an exercise on my weekend on like some horrible weather in winter, and I did it. And I quizzed through it. Yeah, exactly. I quizzed through it, and I just thought, nah, I'm going to join the US and fly planes.
Yeah.
So I left that, and it's also the OTC was a massive unit, and the London unit's huge. So I didn't really ever feel I really clicked off, fitted in anywhere. Whereas the US is a lot smaller. There were 40 max in my intake, and London US is also the biggest one in the country. And then very quickly, I made really good friends in the US. We're all flying all the time. You're going on AT all the time. You adventurous training.
Yeah.
And
but you're not shy of a bit of adventurous training, are you?
No. Most of it is in my own time.
I'm not knocking you for it. I'm jealous.
A lot of people are like, how do you get so much time off for AT? I'm like, I do it in my own time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was my spark to join up. I applied when I was 20. I didn't get in.
So why the Navy?
Why the Navy? Okay.
Because everything's been Air Force for you so far, isn't it, really, in terms of your OTC and all that sort of stuff?
CCF was Army, OTC was Army, and then 4 years in the RAF, the university.
Doing them.
It took me 5 years to get into the military. I applied when I was 20, and I didn't pass my aptitude test, which, as Mandy describes, I'll go through it again for the purpose of today. An aptitude test is like, it took me 8 hours to do aptitude test because
it's just an aptitude test aimed at flying.
Yes, it's flying aptitude test.
Yeah. Because the one I did, I thought, thumbprint nut. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Putting the boxes, putting the squares in the boxes, the circles in the circles. There's a flying aptitude test. It's 8 hours. I think it's meant to take about 4. I was always last one in there. I did it 3 times, and I'm quite heavily dyslexic. So reading the questions, it always took me ages. The English comprehension part of it, I was always like, oh my God, I'm so maxed. But I always managed to pass those bits. I failed twice on you've got vehicle A needs to get from A to D via these are the distances, these are the speeds he's travelling, and these are the fuel he's using.
You confused me already, I'm telling you.
I know. Like, work out how much fuel he's got left.
Did he get there? Where is he now?
And that's exactly what I was like in the aptitude test. I looked at these numbers, I was like, whoa, 30.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know.
We're pot luck on this one.
Yeah. So the first 2 times I did it, I was like, crunching. You've got a minute to answer every question.
Yeah.
A whole problem. And I was looking at these numbers, trying to crunch them, trying to work out the exact number the first 2 times. I failed on the same test both times. I was like, right. And you can only do it once a year. So I applied in 2020. Oh, sorry, not 2020. I applied in, joined in 2019. So I applied initially about 2013. I failed then. You had to wait a whole 12 months to do it again. So I applied again, 2014, 15. Failed in the same test. I was passing the overall pass mark.
Okay.
If you fail on one test, then you don't get through. And then I waited another year. Meanwhile, I was working for BP. I left university. I worked for BP for a couple of years as a geologist, which I hated. The office life was not what I wanted to do, and it's quite a valuable lesson doing that because now it makes me appreciate my job quite a lot more. That I'm not.
I'm sure it does. Yeah.
Then the third time I applied, I was like, right, this is the thing I struggle with. This is how I'm going to approach it. I'm going to look at the numbers and estimate. And that's what they were looking for. Like, right, he's using about that much fuel. He's got about this much distance. Therefore, he must have about this much fuel left. You put that in, and that year I passed, and I passed the flying colours of the last
so
year.
My potluck theory was actually right then.
Yeah. A bit of that, and it makes this. Yeah. But the first 2 times I'm wildly wrong.
Use the force, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mind tricks.
Yeah, exactly. So I ended up passing that 3rd time.
Yeah.
But then I had problems with medical. I've got a bunion on my left foot, and they're like, "Oh, that's medical discharge." And I was like,
"Really?
I do a lot of
bunion?"
Yeah, as a pilot, they. I put this positively. It's just a super hard medical. You need to be.
Yeah.
They can't take the risk. Yeah,
there's
they can't.
Nothing positive about a bunny.
Yeah, I know. There's nothing
So
positive about
don't
money.
try,
No. They can't take the risk on aircrew
Okay.
because we cost so many millions to train. If you've got something wrong with you at the start,
The chances are it's going to amplify.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
get that. I do get that.
Yeah. And I had some lung capacity issues, which really surprised me. So that basically took 18 months to go through. I had to go through to Chelsea Westminster Hospital and do a whole lot of lung capacity tests, blowing into a tube.
Those tubes and that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they give you like some gas and it restricts your lungs by a certain percentage. You blow again and then you keep blowing until you're less than 80% of what you started at, and then they stop because it's actually quite dangerous. And you need to be able to blow out a certain amount of air with each increment of this gas.
Yeah.
And I was like so far below the threshold. And the doctor sat me down and just said, look, these results are so bad. We're going to get you to come back again and do them again because they're abnormally low. Like, for a person you're as fit as you are, they should not be this low.
Okay.
So meanwhile, I had been travelling for about 6 months. I came back to do that test, and I'd hoped to then join a few months later. I was going to go travelling again. The doctor was like, you need to come back. So this paperwork sits on the medic's desk for, I don't know, 3-4 months, and I'm sat at home waiting, not travelling, not really doing very much. I wasn't no longer working for BP. I left there because it wasn't for me. Eventually I ring up and I say, am I going to get another medical to test my lung capacity?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, the papers are here on the desk. Oh, we'll book you in next week. I was just like, so 3 months I've kind of been sat around, and that's something that I recommend people applying now. If you're waiting a long time,
keep going.
Ring them up.
Yeah, keep going. I say this to young people all the time. Just keep going. Keep your finger on. Be a pain in the ass.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It don't matter, does it? It don't matter. But yeah.
It's not worth trying to be polite and just wasting time at home. Ring them up, chase it up. So I end up getting in again. And the test results this time were worse. And the doctor sat down and he said, this is really, really odd, but I'm not going to be able to recommend you to join the Navy. I'll come back round to why I applied to the Navy in a minute, as a pilot.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like, okay, I've been travelling for ages. I had the best time in Brazil. I was like, I'm going to go move to Brazil and teach English and CrossFit and be a dive instructor. And I had this rose-tinted vision in my mind that I'm going to go out there and just give up on this whole idea of join the Navy. And then a few weeks later, I had a letter in the post saying, well done, you've been successful. You're joining in September into the Navy. And I was like, oh my God. And I was at home on my own. And I just started crying because I didn't want to join anymore. And I don't know why I was upset, but I wanted to move to Brazil with this rose-tinted life. And I rang Mum and Dad. I said, I've been accepted into the Navy. And Mum and Dad did not want me to go to Brazil. They sent me up to see my brother, who lived in Scotland at the time, to go on a cycling weekend with him so he could lecture me on how not to go to Brazil. And he's very sweet about it. We had a really nice weekend. At the end of the weekend, he sat me down.
Had a brief.
I had a brief from Mum and Dad. Sat me down at the end of the weekend and just said, look, Mum and Dad are really worried about you. You've got private school education, a degree from a really good university. Now you want to go to Brazil to teach English. It's not really the path that they're not. And my dad, I think, found it really hard to tell me that because he didn't want me he didn't want to tell me what to do with my life. And my mum found that really hard as well. And in no way ever have they said that we want you to do this. But this was one of the time when they did it through my brother. Yeah. And at the end of that weekend, George sat down with me and said, let's write your CV. We sat down and write a CV, and I was threaded. I was like, I don't want to work in London in an office. I've worked for BP, and George was like, you work for a corporate company. You haven't worked for a small startup. It's really fun. It's really he was doing that at the time. And he kind of made me sit down and write my CV with him. And we sent it off to loads of companies, like Angel.com or something at the time. And I, again, was just really, really annoyed. This was before, I think I'm not sure I'd had my Navy application, my Navy accepted or not at this time. Anyway, that kind of coming forward a little bit, I rang Mum and Dad and said I've been accepted into the Navy. And Mum and Dad were like, oh my God, that's fantastic. That's great. When are you starting? And I was like, I don't want to start. I really don't want to start. I want to go to Brazil. I want to live abroad. I feel like I don't belong in this country. at that time. I still want to move away when I'm older, but to the Alps or something. But that's another story. And Mum and Dad said, you need to think about this. You've been applying for 4 years. You've finally made it in, and in the end, I basically settled for I'll join as far I can. I'll defer my place as many times as I can and go travelling, get it off my chest, and like see as much of the world as I can, and come back to the Navy the following May. So I basically had a year. I had a whole year travelling. Had an amazing time. I ran the AFCO and I said, can I ask to defer my place? The guy who was managing my application. And he was like, you can't do that. It's really, really rare that you do that. And he was like, I'll put it forward for you, but it probably won't happen. And in the meantime, I'm still really upset. I'm still like, I don't know when I'm going to set this a place or not. Got an email back saying, your place has been deferred to May 2019. And I was like, great. 2 days later, I plane to Ecuador, and Mum was like, "Can you not just wait like 2 weeks so you can pack and get what you need?" And I was like 19 at this point, or however 22, or kind of early 20s. And I was like, "There is no time to waste, Mum. I'm going to Ecuador. This is what I'm doing. When I get to Ecuador, I'll plan where I'm going." And I had the best time. And it was even better because I knew I was coming back. It wasn't a thing that.
You weren't having to try and you didn't have the sword over your neck all the time of having to try and make something work. Yeah, if it all goes Pete Tong, you just go home, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Used all my money from BP. Every penny I earned was spent on that trip. It was brilliant. And then I came back and I joined the Navy in May 2019, and then I passed the aptitude. At which point I could have then used those same scores for the RAF because I passed for both. And I just thought, I'm on this road now. I'd like to continue with the Navy. And I kind of convinced myself that I want to go senior service. I want to do deck landings, all of that kind of stuff that comes with the Navy. And then I continued, and obviously that's kind of why I'm in the Navy today.
Okay, so you joined the Navy. You go. Where's your training for the Navy?
So training for the Navy is at Dartmouth.
Yep.
Britannia Royal Navy College. I loved my first term there very much. It was like super novel, really good fun. And then I met a guy and started dating him, and he'd been in the military prior, and he didn't enjoy Dartmouth at all. This was quite a valuable lesson for me there in my early Navy careers, because we love to moan, we love to drip. It bonds us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But
if you've got nothing to moan about, there's something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But this guy really brought me down, I think, in my second term. Sorry if he's listening to this. But it taught me a lot going out with him, because I let his thoughts completely dictate my mood. So if he wasn't enjoying it, I was like, well, this is also shit. Like, I'm also not enjoying this. This is rubbish. And looking back, I'm like, actually now, if something's rubbish or like something's a bit miserable, I kind of stand back and go, is it really miserable, or am I just joining in because...
Yeah, am I just dripping because everyone else is dripping? Yeah, you're right, yeah.
And some people drip for the sake of dripping, but are actually enjoying it. I was dripping and also finding it really miserable. So now I drip as well, but actually that's quite good. So that was quite valuable going out with him and moving forward to be like, okay, am I actually finding this miserable? I kind of stand back. This is a pretty cool job. Like we're always doing something cool. So I got through the back end of Dartmouth. I got out of that fine.
You can also compare it back to, am I with BP still sat riding a desk? Like, do you know what I mean? And that's I always look back. My very first job was washing up, and then I've got a job in a factory. Yeah. And I always look back to these geezers in the factory that were just trimming plastic all day. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. How shit was that?
I know. And my parents, when I was really little, super naughty at school, they used to say, if you don't study, you're going to be sell balloons at Thorpe Park. That was their threat my whole childhood. If you don't work, you're going to go to Thorpe Park. We live just down the road, and sell balloons. And now it was like, I'm at Dartmouth, and Mum was like, you could be at BP, sat at a desk, just scrolling through data. And I was like, and now that's why I say that experience is super valuable that I had at BP, because it really makes me appreciate what I do now.
So you're in your training.
Yeah.
You're enjoying your training. At what point do you finish your training, and where do you go when you've done that?
Okay, so you're talking about flight training.
Yeah, the flight training, because your career is sort of like all over the place.
It is all over the place. Yeah,
I want to talk about the commando stuff for sure, because I love that. But
yeah,
do you know what I mean? I want to know how you got to there.
Get there. Yeah. So I finished Dartmouth in December 2019, and it's taken me 5 years to get to where I am, and I still not finished flying training.
Okay.
Still in flying training. So this is where I think
Where are you now? Where are you based? Where do you work out of?
Yeovil.
Okay.
Yeovilton.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Kind of like weirdly in between jobs at the minute. But
can I ask what airframe?
I'm going on to fly the Merlin.
Okay, wow. Yeah, no.
So the Commando Helicopter Force.
So I had to go in the Wildcat simulator down
okay.
there. I stacked it left, right, and all right, once it's up in the sky, easy, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trying to put it on the floor, no chance, not for me.
Yeah, no, it is hard. The sim is hard. I find that hard. When I first started, I was like, how do you land this thing in the sim?
I just repeatedly stacked it.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. So it's taken me 5 years.
Yeah.
It should take 3, but there's massive holds. So between each flying courses are tri-service. You do grading at Yeovilton.
Yeah.
To check that you have the aptitude to fly. It's about a 12-hour course. It's changed a little bit now, but for me it was 12-hour course just to check that you can fly. You have the attitude, the aptitude to fly.
Yeah.
After that course, you go out into, it's called a hold, and you go into the Navy and you're put somewhere, or you choose to go somewhere where you think you can have output. Then I'll go back more into what my holds have been. That's been the majority of my career, really. Then you go into your next flying course, which is elementary flying training at Cranwell. And that was about 10 months on the Grob Prefect. Great fun. 30 hours in a little turbo prop fixed wing aircraft.
Yeah.
Go solo in that. That was brilliant. Come out the end of that, I go into another 2-year hold, waiting for my next flying course, which was rotary training at Shawbury. RF Shawbury. So after EFT, you get streamed jets or rotary. I wanted rotary just because for me, I want to be 50 feet hands-on. I don't want to be 35,000 feet anymore. Like, I think back in the day with the Harrier, it would have been really exciting. But now with the F-35s, you're just so high, far removed.
Yeah, I met someone years ago who was doing fast jets.
Yeah.
And moved back to a crew job on a C-130 because I'm on my own all the time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm sat up in Arbroath. I've got nothing. Do you know what I mean? I'm on stud 2. I'm on a pager for half my life.
Yeah, I know. And nowadays you're managing a computer, and that's not. It's so intelligent that the F-35, that it's so computer based. So I want to go rotary. So I go to RF Shawbury. I've just spent the last 18 months there, doing basic and then advanced rotary training, and then 6 weeks RF Valley doing a search and rescue course. That was amazing, really good fun. And now I'm waiting for my next flying course and a next small hold, fortunately, for a few months. And I start on the Merlin and the Commando Helicopter Force in January. So looking back to the first hold I did, is lockdown, actually. So what was that, 2021?
Something like that,
yeah. Yeah, I know. 2021, I worked on 815 Naval Air Squadron at Yeovilton and the Wildcat Squadron. But as a hold over there, you're kind of just doing odd jobs. You're doing a lot of backseat flights, which was really, really cool, really exciting in that early stage. And I was like, I want to go Wildcat back then, because I held in that squadron and it was quite exciting. But then lockdown hit, and the XO of the squadron said, "What are you going to do for the next year?" And I was like, "I'm holding with you." And he was like, No. You're going to go home, and you're probably not going to come into the squadron for quite a few months. And I was like, oh, right. This is obviously right at the start of COVID, when no one knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So I kind of went back to my cabin and...
because it's essential only, wasn't it? So if you're in a holding job, you're not essential, are you?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get on to my next goal. So I've got this thing, right? This is what my career is so all over the place, because I set myself once a year goals. And 2020 I was at Dartmouth. I swam 10 miles down the River Dart. 2021 in lockdown, I was like, you know what? I really like to compete for Great Britain, and I'm going to do it in triathlon. And the gym's closed. I stopped my CrossFit, and I just went full-time, pretty much elite athlete triathlon, because I wasn't being employed at work because of lockdown, and I had all this free time. 2 hours of exercise a day wasn't really a thing in Somerset. There was nobody on the roads. I just cycled and I ran, and I swam occasionally in a river. And then at the end of 2021, I ended up going to the European Championships for Great Britain in the age group triathlon team. So basically, my first hold was full of just sport. full-time triathlon because of lockdown. And then I went out of that, and it was great because going back into that hold, there were a few orphans on camp, so I wasn't allowed to go home. Mum and Dad were really like shielding. Mum's quite asthmatic.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to go home at all. They were really, really strict on the rules were the rules, and I was like, fine, I'm going to live on camp with my camp orphans.
Yeah.
We just, there were like 4 of us who cycled every day. I mean, we were cycling 100k a day. I was running a minimum of 10 miles a day. Like my mileage was ridiculous. I lost loads of weight. I was eating so much, but I was doing so much fizz.
Burn up the calories.
So much, and it was super nice weather like the whole summer. Yeah. And we get in from a cycle then a run, and then someone be like, "Should we play tennis?" And you play tennis until it gets dark. And it was just such a good. It was such a good life. I was
living the dream.
I was really fortunate. Some people went through obviously really tough times in COVID.
Yeah.
I was really, really fortunate that I had the opportunity. So then I go to Cranwell. I go on to my elementary flight training there. I've come out of the other side of that. It was really good fun. 40 hours in a God prefect, whizzing around solo, navigation, just teaching all about airmanship and flying a fixed wing that cruises at, I think it was 120 knots. So come out of EFT and go into my next hold. And I went to Poole and worked with Marines there in the kind of kit specialist wing, bringing in new kit and equipment for them.
Big credit card, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really enjoyed that. It was an eye-opening experience.
It's a cool place as well, isn't it? So there's some cool people down there. So
yeah, really cool people. Yeah,
nice.
Really inspirational people. A lot of people you had on podcasts. Like they're the people who inspire me, and a lot of them will never be afforded this platform. Like I've got here to share their story, but have been such a big inspiration to me. And like by observing some of those people, I've come across down at Poole and other bootnecks and other people I've come across in the military, I've been able to apply some of those like basic observations to my own efforts, which resulted in All Arms. So whilst I was at Poole, I said to them, can I go? I've got another year with you at least until I would go start at Shawbury. Can I go and do All Arms? And my boss there said, yeah, sure. Let's ring your line manager, my flight line manager, and check with her. And her kind of comeback was, you can do it, but remember why you joined the Navy. You joined the Navy to fly. You're a naval officer. Like,
getting worried now, aren't they?
A little bit. People have tried to stop me a lot along the way, and I'm very much like, I live in my best life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lead me to like my own path.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your concerns, but this is my 2022 goal.
Yeah.
The swim, the GB, and then All Arms was my 2022. All Arms Commando. Yeah. So I spoke to her and she said, go and do it. And this was in like the back end of 2021. We went skiing at Christmas and I was still kind of dilly-dallying over it. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. It had been in the back of my mind since joining the Navy. I saw some bootnecks at Dartmouth in basic training and I was like, you're really cool. And I had like, at the time I was always really nervous around people with green lids. I was like, that's a super hard course. And it was really, I didn't know much about it. I was like, so much respect for still do have so much respect for bootnecks and everything that they do after Lympstone. It's not just about
absolutely. That's the means to that's the entry, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the entry level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I had it in my mind, and at Dartmouth we did this like 2-day exercise on Dartmoor, and I creamed in hard, a bit like OTC. I was like, I hate this. I hate being cold, wet, and miserable. My admin was so bad. Like wet and dry. I was like,
and there is a fair amount of soldiering to be done on the camp. I mean, I've done the commando course myself, but there is a fair amount of soldiering to be done on that course.
Yeah.
I mean, I came from the infantry to do it, so the soldiering side of it wasn't so much of a deal. But yourself, coming from the sort of like flying world and probably not as used to being face down in the dirt world, must have been a bit of a.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, I'd always been outdoorsy. Dad had always taken us on skiing trips in winter, activity holidays in summer. We used to run after school as a family. My brother, me and my dad, all the sports I'd done. So I was really into being outdoors. But the uncomfortable of being in the field, I didn't like it at Dartmouth. Also, I didn't know how to look after myself. So I think that made it really miserable. And I didn't know how to do wet and dry. I didn't know how to pack my Bergen properly. So it was actually really miserable. So I didn't know the basic skills. I thought, nah, I'm not doing all arms. That sounds ridiculous. After 2 days in the field, I almost creamed in. And then the idea came on again, and I was like, you know what, I might do it. And then again, something else popped up, and I was like, nah, that sounds too miserable. And then I went to Paul, and I started dating somebody there, and he just said, what's the worst that can happen? You show up to the start line. It takes courage to show up to the start line, as you'll be the only serving female from the Navy to do that. At present, there's only been a small handful in history. Turn up. The worst that can happen is, you break your leg and you don't fly anymore. But I just kind of trusted my body enough to that wasn't really ever a doubt of my mind that I would get seriously injured, and touch wood. Unfortunately, I didn't. And Christmas came around 2021. We went skiing, and I just thought, I'm going to do it. So I'd asked everybody to do it, and I hadn't committed yet because I knew we were going skiing for quite a while. And I got back in January. I just said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I was meant to be going away with the snowboarding team for another 4 or 5 weeks. And I said, I'm really sorry, but I need to go home and train. So I gave myself 10 weeks to train, which, looking back, you need a lot longer than that. But I think with the history of CrossFit, I had the strength from that, the upper body strength from that.
Yeah.
Then I'd done a year of triathlon, so super fit from that. Then I just topped up 10 weeks of massive overtraining to just be get your resilience up. Work really hard in the gym. My partner took me out in Brisworthy Woods in January on a weekend together, going, right, where's your jungle knots in your bivvy? And I was like, what's a jungle knot? And he was like, oh my God. Right, okay, this is how you put up a bivvy. It was real.
Twang.
yeah.
Get rid of that.
Yeah.
Get this on there.
Yeah, it was a real noddy, really basic stuff. I'd never been in the field or done green stuff.
Yeah.
So he kind of spoke me through the real basics of that. And then I started the course in May 2022, for the Beat Up course. So a little bit of background of what the All Arms is for those listening. It's a 16-week arduous infantry course, and it's used to train members of the Navy, the Army, and the RAF to become what's known as commando trained, where we have kind of the skills, the fitness, and the robustness to support the fighting units of the Royal Marines on the ground. We're not Royal Marines; we're there in the supporting. Yeah, that's right. Supporting kind of realm. And because it's a 4-week beta course at 2924 CLR, 2924 the Army regiments, and they assume prior green skills. CLR assume you're in the Navy and you don't know anything. So I went to CLR and it was really good beat up. A lot of fizz, a lot of this is how you pack your Bergen. This is how you put up a bivvy. I was like, this is what I need. Take me back to scratch just so I can learn everything properly.
Yeah, the basics.
This is how you build your webbing. Really basic stuff. I just found it would fizz every day, speed marches all the time, and I was like, this is hard. The fizz was really hard, bottom field was really hard, fireman's carries, hazardry drags, all of that. Getting wet in the dunking us in the tank every day. It was summer. Just to build that, all of those little things just help build that resilience that was required to get on to do the course. So after the end of the 4-week beat up, you do a PCPA, pre-commando physical assessment, which is a full day of tests, bleep tests, pull-ups, press-ups, bottom field, fireman's carries. If you pass it, so I think about 200 or so went onto PCPA, I think, and then 40 started the course.
Okay, how many females?
Just me.
Just you?
Just
okay,
me.
All right.
So there were, on the beat up, I think there were 4 of us. A girl that was on my beat up was injured with shin splints, and then 2 other girls were on 2.4 and 2.9. One of them couldn't make it to the top of the rope, so wasn't put on PCPA, and the other one got injured. And there's always girls that I hear start beat up, and they're like, we're going to have 4 girls this year. And I was like, let me know if they make it on course. And that's when I start to think, right, if the girl's on course, I do try and message her on Instagram and say, if you need anything, please ping me a message, because I had support from Jen, who went through a few years before me. And I rang Jen when I failed a test on All Arms and said, Jen, I'm really struggling. Can you help me with my mindset, or can you help me with what you did at this point? And that was so amazing to have Jen. So I do try and message the girls if they get on course.
Yeah.
It's super rare that I think there's been 1 or 2 since I've passed in 2020.
There was one not so long back. I was down there last year. I think there was one.
Yeah,
there was one. She was struggling with the monkey bars actually on the bottom field.
Okay, yeah. There's always something that catches us out, or same with everybody, male or female. So 240 started the course, and then it's a 12-week. The All Arms itself is 12 weeks. It's 1 week on camp, learning kind of skills for the field, the theory behind like technical attacks, troop attacks, and loads of fitness, loads of bottom field, as you know, and then 1 week on in the field. So 1 week on camp, 1 week in field, putting those skills into a more realistic environment.
Woodbury Common that first week. Is it the first? Is the first one Woodbury Common?
Yeah, first one Woodbury Common. Yeah, now just running around Woodbury Common, like legging it between checkpoints. And
92, I did mine.
Sorry, 92. Okay, yeah. I think we had a whole load of nods on that exercise with us, and definitely on Dartmoor. I met one of them at a trig point, and he was like, "Mum, do you know where we are?" And I was like, "No, mate, but I'm going this way. I've got 30 more minutes in this direction. I'm really sure I can't help you." So 1 week on camp, 1 week in the field, on repeat 6 times, and then the course culminates in 8 days on Dartmoor, and then the 4 commando tests. So the 9 mile speed march, endurance course, Tarzan course, and then the 30 miler.
And the 30 miler, yeah.
Once you pass all of that, you earn your green lid and become a Royal Navy, Army, or RAF commando.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the outline of the course itself.
And you enjoyed it?
Best thing I've ever done.
What did you find the hardest thing? I was going to say, what did you find the hardest on there?
It's the hardest thing in my life I've ever done, but I think that's why it's the best thing. The hardest thing for me was the psychological side of it and the self-induced pressure that I put on myself. I think I wanted to pass more than anything, like anything at all. From January, then I started training, I was like, I'm going to do this. This is my 2022 goal. Yeah. I really want to be a commando helicopter pilot. I really don't want to go pinger. So there's you can be a pinger down at Coolidge. No disrespect to them. It's maritime flying over the sea, hunting for submarines. Personally, I wanted to be Commando Helicopter Force. It was much more my character. And I was like, if I pass this course, it should hopefully secure me that. No guarantee, but I was like, hopefully they won't put the only serving commando as a pinger.
So that means you can have troops in the back, you can deploy with them.
I can work directly.
Sort of stuff. So pinger.
I can work directly with 3 Commander Brigade.
Adios. Cheers for the jokes.
And if I pass the course, I was like, right, that's going to secure me the job that I really want for the rest of my career. That was a massive driving force. Massive driving force also was this challenge, this personal reward, this hardship that I was about to put myself through. And the hardest thing I found was that self-induced pressure. Like, I dreamt about it. I put on as much weight as I could for it. I spoke about it to everybody. Like, my life revolved around it leading up to it. And every day during the course, like, this is the only thing in my life that matters right now. And that is what it took for me to pass, like 100% commitment and like dedication to it. And that came with a drowning amount of self-induced pressure at certain points in the course. For example, I did find yomping really, really hard. I think because we're physically built different, but expected to carry the same amount of weight and perform the same standards as the men. It does require, I think, a little bit more resilience at times. A little bit, you need to dig a little bit deeper. And I think where I've perhaps lacked in physical strength, I've gained in like mental strength and mental robustness, and that was more powerful at times. When it got really hard, I was like, I can do this. Like, this is where my mind's going to get me through this. My body is
just
hanging
out. Pushing on that
You'll know
level.
that more than anybody. So one of the hardest parts on course for me, I remember yomping one at Senny Bridge going, this is the hardest thing I have ever done. And I remember saying it to myself going, I don't want to forget this moment because I want to be proud that I've got through this. And that was just like one snapshot. I remember it so well, the hill we were going up. And the guys were walking past going, stride out fish. And I was like, I can't stride out. You can't kind of stride out as a female because so many hip injuries, so many back injuries. I would kind of shuffled my way along tiny little steps all the time. But I failed bottom field pass out, which for me was a massive like, oh my God.
What did you fail on?
The ropes.
Oh, okay.
So it was mindset for me that day. And I knew I could climb the ropes. I had passed them a couple of times, which is what made it more stressful, that I've only passed those ropes a couple of times before.
You can build that pressure on yourself.
It came 100%.
You know you've done it, but that thing that says you also know that you haven't done it, it's like I call it the counterbalance.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because if you know you could fail it, you could fail it.
Yeah.
But you know you should pass it, so you could pass it. But you're in the middle, aren't you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
Honking.
Yeah. The day I stood at the bottom of the ropes, I looked up, and there were so many people coming to watch. All the officers from the feeder units had come to see how their students would get on.
Yeah.
And I just felt, with the ponytail on my back, on my head, I felt like I was watched. In the end of the day, no one actually cared. And looking back, no one cared if I passed or not. But I felt at that time, I was like, everyone here today will notice me.
I'm going to contradict that slightly, because having been down and watched a couple of courses, and there's been women on some of the courses I've looked at, I take an interest outside because it's different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you're like, I wonder how she's doing. You know what I mean? So I would be looking.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, I would be looking. Not to... don't want to put other girls off to say, look, we're all staring at you, because we're not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But there is an interest there for sure. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I had texts from random people in the military down at Poole who I wasn't really particularly friends with, halfway through going, how are you getting on? So I knew people were following my progress. So I stood at the bottom of those ropes that day, and I was so aware of everyone watching. And I just had this overwhelming sense of dread and pressure that I wasn't going to make it. I looked up and I said, I don't know today. I don't know. And like the PTI, I was like, to the top, climb, as I always did every session. And I wiped my hands on my legs and I grabbed the rope and I worked my way to the top. And as always, I like massively slowed towards the top, like really, really slow. And the PTI was like, Fish, you're always too slow. You never make these ropes because you're too slow. I was like, I'm not trying to go slowly. And I'm not trying to be a snail up this rope. I want to get to the top and down as quickly as I can. So the foot from the top, and I lifted my knees for the last shift and my hands just slipped. I lifted my knees again and my hands slipped. And like the PTI was like, come down, Fisher. And I descended this rope. My hands, my forearms were completely burnt out so quickly. I hit the bottom. And he was like, get back to block. And I just thought, oh my God.
Died.
Absolutely. This meant everything to me. I know it's such a small thing to other people. And I haven't been on deployments, I haven't saved lives, I haven't done anything like that. But for me, in that point in my career, because it was something I wanted so much, I was really, really gutted. So we went onto Portsmouth Burrows for 5 days on our exercise there. It was an absolute lick. And then we came back on Friday. They're like, okay.
And you got to do the bottom field again now?
Yeah, I got to the bottom field. I had maybe, I don't know, you know how much sleep you get in the field and in the summer, summer as well, with not much darkness. A few hours sleep a night, if at tops. And then I had a rerun on Friday. And then it was just me. I sat in my room the hour prior telling myself, like, you can. I spent the whole week in the field, like, visualising ways I was going to get to top, like, really dark thoughts with, like, a gun to my partner's head if it wasn't going to make it to the top. That was one way, like, I was like, maybe if I treat it that way, that will convince me to get to the top. And then maybe if I just think about the technique whereby I had, like, hands, knees, push, pull, hands, knees, push, pull, all techniques are, like, I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
Went to the bottom of the ropes, looked up, and I was like, you're going to do this. You are. There was no doubt. You like, and that's what it took, that mindset of that, like, you are going to do it. And that's the only way I got to the top. And I just worked my way to the top. Same again. I was like super slow, and I was like, I'm slowing down. I'm half a foot from the top. And I lifted my knees. I gripped the rope between my legs. And as you know, I got like proper lock. And I was like, I got this. Pushed out, reached the shackle. I was like, Fisher, stop! And it's just so much relief, relief. I descended down and then did bottom field, the fireman's carry and regain finds. I knew I could do all these things, and then carried on with the rest of the course. So I found that whole process of that week really, it was so close to being taken away. Something I wanted so badly.
But to come back from that shows a mental mindset that's insane. Do you know what I mean? That's like,
I think it's something we all share.
Because a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people wrap these sorts of courses. They do wrap. They just wrap their tits in. That's it, done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that you managed to go out for another 5 days, come back, and then sort of like on your own almost. Do you know what I mean? Other than the carries, on your own, go right. Oh, I've got to do this now. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And get amongst it.
Yeah. I think
shows incredible mindset.
I think that's what we learn on that course. We all share that mindset, I think, which is something that I really have liked earning my green beret.
But that's what the Corps wants. And that's why you get a green lid.
Yeah.
That's why they don't just chuck them over the counter to anybody.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because that mindset isn't just the mindset of how you get yourself around that field. Yeah. It's how you conduct yourself on operations.
Yeah.
And that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The fact that you're going to be able to keep going and you're not going to be a drain on everybody else, and that you can make that bar and beyond, because you're going to go further beyond, you know. Any lid you get on your head, once you get to your unit, you're going to go surpass that many times.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a point in the field when the DS rarely spoke to us, as you know, and hardly interact with you. And one of them walked past me on exercise. We're just stepping off, I think, full burger and everything. And they walked past. It's the only time they spoke to me. And he said, Fisher, we've never seen anybody with as much determination and mental resilience as you. Keep going. And I was like, oh my God. And this was like week 8, and I was really suffering. I've got 4 weeks left. And that point the course got really hard for me because I lost the day-to-day wins. At the start of the course, I was like, I'm still here. Can you believe it? End of the day, I was like, my partner was like, I'm still on course. Like, I can't believe I've made it. And then week 8 comes around, I'm like, I really want to get to the end now. I really want to get to the end. And then he walked past me and said that, and I was like, I really needed that. I can do this. And then still a mountain in front of me.
You still got your commando test to do.
Still got my commando test. I know. Still got the Senny Bridge. Still got the final X to do. All the unknowns of everything to come. But that was really nice that he said that, and I'm glad that they recognised that. And I think that's a big thing that got me through that course was just that perseverance and that determination to be like, I really want this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
a very proud moment. Where did you get? Did you receive it in the?
Down in Plymouth.
Right. Okay.
So we started at Hampton now, and we run down.
Because they've gone back to the original woods, haven't they, to give for the berry parades now, haven't they?
Ooh, I don't know. So
I've got mine in a field. I don't even know where it was. It was the end of the 30 miler. We was in a field somewhere.
It was in Princetown, wasn't it, over the bridge?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore.
So they went back to now. I think now they do it.
What's the unit?
In the old woods. Is it 4-2 round the back of somewhere near 4-2? I don't know. There's a woods anyway.
Yeah.
Commandos will be screaming at me now. You
know
what I mean?
Same with me.
I'm going twat. Like, you know what I mean?
Sorry.
Anyway, yeah. There's a nice picture of it in the mess, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway,
yeah. So I ran.
But a proud moment, no matter, even if you can't remember where it was.
Yeah. No. We ran onto the camp, and it was a really, really proud moment. Just a massive weight off my shoulders. My partner was there waiting for me, just leant on the corner of a building, and I ran in, and we weren't meant to have any family there at all. And I knew that I was next to chief instructor, and I looked at my partner, I looked at the chief instructor, and he was like, "Really?" And because my partner is serving, he was allowed in, and I said, "Can I go and see him, please, staff?" And he was like, "Come on, take your shirt, change your shirt, so you're not like a honking mess." And then, I ran over to him. I gave a massive hug, and I just thought, it's over.
Yeah.
That like the pressure that I put on myself, like this massive weight off my shoulders, had been lifted, and I was like, hopefully now I can be a CHF pilot. I've achieved this goal that I've set myself, and I've gone through so much hardship and personal hardship that I'd ever experienced. And that reward for that is I don't think I'd ever experience again. And I don't think it's something you experience in Civvy Street. Because in Civvy Street, it's all under your control. I think all the triathlon I've done, everything I've done in the Alps and stuff, you can sleep, you can plan your route, you can eat appropriately. It's all kind of within your control.
Yeah.
This is, you're going to get half an hour's sleep and then you're jumping again tomorrow for 14 hours. And you're like, oh my God. Yeah. You're going to carry this much weight. Oh, by the way, you're going
to sleep in a ditch before. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to bed. You get shell scrape.
Yeah.
Off you go, son.
And tomorrow you're carrying the 355 radio, and next day you're carrying the GPMG, and like, it's.
I'm sure you can manage that. There you go.
Yeah. That was a really tough day. We on sleep deprivation on exercise on Senny Bridge, and we were regrouping to set off again for a day of yomping, and we were reassigned our roles, and I was just like, get my Bergen together as always, ready to step off with like my own kit. And the chief instructor was like, Fisher, you're troop signaller. And at the time, I didn't really register, and the previous signaller came over and put the 355 radio at my feet.
Flap open.
Yeah. And all its batch rules. And I looked at it and was like, are you for real? Like, I could hardly carry my own kit, let alone that. And I said to my troop, I was like, my section, I said, guys, I don't think I could do this. Like, that's ridiculous. And they said, well, you have to, it's your turn. And I really respected that about that course, because there was you're a female.
Allowances. No,
yeah. So wear the green beret, you perform to standards.
Yeah.
And there was just like, I was like, God, I got to do this. And I I hauled my Bergen onto my back, and I tore my bicep the week before on the Tarzan course. I remember going like wincing at that every time I picked it up. I slung my weapon over my shoulder and I stepped off with my section. And I just remember walking into the distance, and we were just patrolling. So you got 10 the man overhead's about 10 meters, man behind 10 meters, and I just cried silently to myself and was just like that overwhelming sense of pressure that I told you about, that I was like drowning me at times like this. And then it got to that point where the pain in your shoulders doesn't get any worse, and you're just like, okay, this is just how it's going to be. The pace slowed down to like slow patrol pace, and I was like, actually, you can do this, and you will do this. Just make it to the next rock, make it to the next tree, make it.
You've got to take a step at a time. You can't.
Yeah,
you can't be thinking, right, am I still able to keep going tomorrow? Because tomorrow's not here yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just make it to the. It was literally make it to the next rock. When I made it to the next rock, okay, I've won. Next rock. I did that all the way to the harbour area, and the chief instructor came up to me in the harbour area and said, "I'm so glad you did that, and you had to do that because now you've got the respect of the troop. Because up until now, I hadn't carried the GPMG or the radio, or like any of the
people are going to be looking in on stuff. As they would with anybody, not just a female. You know, if you see a guy who's not pulling his weight or not being given the kit, you soon, you know what I mean? Maybe you'd have an officer there or something. You'd be like, hang on a minute, how come the Rupert ain't had that yet? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You would be.
Yeah, and looking back, as more, kind of with an outsider view, a bit more mature, I wish I kind of said, do you want me to carry the radio earlier on? But I didn't know my body's ability at that time, and I was still learning that mental resilience, and I kind of should have stepped up as an officer and said, look, I'll take that for this section. But it was given to me, and I was like, oh, holy shit. And then I did it, and it's fine, and we moved on. But that I learned a lot from that experience.
No, it's a great experience, and like I say, you've come through it, and the other side, what that brings with it now, you know, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So you've done that.
Yep.
Right. So right now you are still hoping to become a commando pilot.
Yes.
What's your next moves? What have you got going on?
So I start on 846 in January, which is the CHF squadron.
It's away from here, yeah. What are you doing in between times? Come on, you must be up to something.
I'm doing a lot.
You're not climbing the mountain or something.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot.
Making your life more difficult than it is already.
So I do a lot of adventurous training.
Yeah.
I've been really, really lucky. I finished Valley in August, and I haven't done any adventurous training in the whole of my 6 or 5.5 years so far. And a lot of people, you're meant to be entitled to 5 days a year.
Okay.
No one ever actually gets that because you're always working, you're away. And I got to the end of Valley and said, right, I've got until I've had quite a few career courses. So I've had like 5 weeks of career courses. So I had a tiny hold, career courses, tiny hold, Christmas. So I said, in these little holes, can I just smash AT? And my line manager was like, I guess so, because you can't really have an output in an actual job because you're only going to be there for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a couple of days, not worth it.
Yeah. And I've just been rock climbing instructor course, mountain leader course.
Up in Scotland? Or
all in the lakes.
Nice.
I took a week's leave. I'm now on this 2-week, weird 2-week section where they've said, go out and make yourself useful. I'm at Yeovil in the Learning Development Centre. And I said, can I go around schools, CCF units, OTCs, university, ERNUs, university, Royal Naval units, RNRs, Royal Navy Reserves, and give talks? Because I find it really rewarding, and I think the younger generation need to see a female in this role to believe that they can as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I say this so many times. I do quite a bit of youth stuff myself, and I always say you can't be what you can't see.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So if you don't see it, you can't be it.
Yeah.
As simple as bust. Do you know what I mean? And role models are few and far between in school, I would say nowadays, especially like your state schools, because teachers are teachers and they stick to the curriculum and that's what they have to teach.
Yeah.
But outside of that, they don't get nothing.
Yeah.
They don't get nothing at all.
Yeah.
So their options are limited because they don't know it's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think females in particular need to see females succeed in order to believe that they can as well.
Yeah, of course they do.
I think a lot of I said that on the social media once to some guy who was trolling me, and he was like, why do girls need to see girls succeed? And I was like, because as Mandy Hickson said, 66% of the population, male or female, don't believe they can do a job unless they see it, just like you've just said.
Yeah.
And females in particular. I did the All Arms course because Jen had done it before me, and the Trailblazers before me did that. And I was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I saw a few bootnecks who was.
And it is opening up that world as well. You know, I've just seen a young girl go through P Company.
Yeah.
You know, she's passed. She's got a lid now. She'll have her wings hopefully as soon as she can get her jumps in and all that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? It is opening up.
Yeah, yeah.
Massive deal was made of the SF world being opened up for women. Rightly so. Pass the course, in you go.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I never have a problem with that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's somebody old and bold going, not in my day, son, not in my... So what? It's not your day anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Let them get on with it.
Yeah, regardless of gender, regardless of whatever.
Yeah, do the job.
Prove you can do the job.
You got one.
Absolutely.
Simple as.
Absolutely. And that's the message I said in the school yesterday. I said, if you can prove you can do the job, you can do whatever job you want. It doesn't matter of your gender. So I've got these next 2 weeks going around schools, and I'm loving it. It's so great. And a little girl said to me yesterday, she's like, "So why are there no females in your job?" And I was like, "I think it's because people don't go around like this enough."
Yeah.
And show you that you can do it.
It's so positive as well. I always learn just as much as I'm teaching when I work with kids. You know that? 'Cause it's just so rewarding.
Yeah.
You know, it really
massively.
is. The enthusiasm that some of them bring, the way that they sit there. The MPCT, I've been working with them, the Military Preparation Training College.
Okay.
Young lads writing everything down, I'm saying.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Must remember it all.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it has a massive... I'm so glad you're doing that.
Yeah.
It has a massive impact on their lives. It really does.
Really, really. I'm
So
really
positive.
fortunate. I've got, I think, like 16 schools the next 2 weeks, and the ones I've done in the last 2 days have been so rewarding. And the kids just sit there, like you say, just glued to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can do this. Like,
You take a few props to take your lid and all that sort of stuff, do you?
Well, I wear my uniforms. I'm doing it at Navy time. So
yeah. Not the cookhouse it is today.
yeah, exactly.
What time is it? Big time.
You can get one too, you know. Yeah. I went to the Royal Marine Cadets yesterday.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
They were brilliant. There are a lot of girls. There are a lot of girls on there, and I was like, yes,
There's
girls.
a lot of interest there, and the Army cadets have a lot of females.
Yeah, amazing.
A lot of interest.
I said to all of them, I was like, don't forget, like, you're role models to the rest of the school.
Yeah.
Like, girls be looking at you and think they could join the cadets, and you're looking at me thinking I can join the Navy or the Army. Like, that's how it works. Like, you guys from here come into my place and inspire the ones after you.
Yeah.
Like Jen inspired me.
Absolutely.
All
And you know
Arms.
yourself now from serving, there's so many people within the services have been through that environment before they got there.
Yeah.
Loads and loads and loads. So many of the guests I've had on here, Billy Billingham,
Yeah.
you know, so many people I've had on this show have been in the cadets.
Yeah.
In some capacity. Melvin Downs, you know, Boom.
Yeah.
All those sorts of people.
Like, so that's a spark, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
And it's outside of school. So I find people that do activities outside of the school curricula tend to go further. Not because of any other reason than the fact that they've got the stickability to do something voluntarily.
Yeah.
You have to go to school.
Yeah.
So like at Olympic, you have to go to school.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to cadets. If you don't like it, go home.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so you know for a start you've got someone who can actually stick something out because they want to be there.
Yeah.
And take a bit of hardship on the way.
Yeah.
Football, rugby, dancing, tap dancing, swimming, whatever the activity is.
Yeah.
If you can stick at it and apply yourself outside of school when you don't have to be there,
Yeah.
that's a massive qualification on its own for me.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you start lumping in things like the DOV and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You're all over it, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so rewarding to be doing that. So I've got that the next 2 weeks. Go skiing for 6 weeks.
Let's talk longer term then.
Longer term.
Longer term, you've obviously got some training to do in April, which hopefully you'll be successful with.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. So longer term, I have a 6-year return of service. After that, I don't know. I would probably look at this point in my career to, I think there's more to life, I think, for me than the military. And I'd like to go out and go into TV and media, move to the Alps, set up a outdoor adventure company would be a great thing to do, like mountaineering, ski touring kind of thing, ice climbing. Keep doing the talks. I don't know. There's
You're phenomenally fit, right? Did you ever find out what the deal was with your lungs, why the capacity wasn't working on the initial test?
So, I think it was because of hay fever season. So,
really? Okay. So yeah. So it's been bugging me because I'm thinking you must have a capacity. You must are a lung. You know what I mean? You are a lung.
Yeah.
The head and hair on top of a lung. Like,
yeah. So I think it was hay fever season. And I get it, but I didn't think it affected me that bad. I used to get runny nose in the season, and it obviously must constrict my lungs. So I was trying to do this blowy test, and it was. I never noticed it. I've trained all through hay fever season. I'm always like, I'm fine, but that's the only thing I put it down to, because my medicals since lockdown have been pushed to winter because they weren't doing medicals in the hay fever season. Well, they weren't doing hay fever
and you were fine with it.
And then now I do them in winter. I'm no drama.
Obviously, things are working okay because of what you're achieving in your life.
Yeah, exactly. So, and All Arms was all in hay fever season, so I was fine there as well. But yeah, I think this test in particular was just so sensitive. I don't know, but that's the only thing I put down to because now I'm fine with it and it's in winter.
So you own eventually. You've obviously got to return your service. You've got to do this, that, and the other. You've got some goals you've got to achieve.
Yeah.
On the out, media wise, what would you like to do media wise?
I'm getting a lot of stick for this.
Come on, I like stick.
I don't know. There's no females in the Jason Fox world, is there?
No. No, you're right.
There's a couple. Victoria Pendleton is doing quite a lot for females in that world. There's a few adventurers, like Bear Grylls, kind of. I love the outdoors. I love the all arms kind of things, and I would like if job opportunity came to go into that world. I'm trying to be careful how I kind of pitch this, because I'm not kind of thinking I want to leave the military. If I get 6 years' time, want to stay, I'll stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd maybe to go to mobile operations team and do some commando stuff with that. Yeah. So many options that if I get to 6 years and think this is awesome, I'm going to stay.
You're a fantastic advert for the army. Do you know what I mean? Almost to the point that if you don't go on and have a career outside where you're visible to the community, it's wasted. In a way, not wasted, but it deserves to. It could be there, and it could be great. Do you know what I mean? And it goes back to this inspiration thing for me.
Yeah,
that you actually, maybe your fulfillment in all this is what you bring in completing other people's journeys or getting them on the way to.
I find that really rewarding. These talks are so rewarding. I think the media thing, for me, might be maybe I'm seeing that as that thing as I can reach a bigger audience.
It's a way to do that. It is and I realise that. I know I got backed into media by circumstance. I never wanted to be here.
Yeah.
But now I've realised that it is incredibly influential. And I'll give you an example. So I was on a passing out parade. Bear was leading the front rank and I'm inspecting the last rank. Yeah. And a young lad I see wants to talk to me. Yeah. And he says, Phil, he says, I've got to thank you. What for, son? He said 4 years ago, he said, my dad sent you a message on Instagram and asked you to do a video message to me because I was underachieving at school. And I did. I remember doing the message. I was like, come on, son, sort yourself out. By the way, they've fought forces. And he said, look, I'm passed out, red berry on his head, going to the parachute regiment. And I was like, I started welling up. I'm like, geez. Yeah. And that is worth more than any paycheck I could ever be given by anybody. Yeah. And I don't care what anyone says. You know what I mean? And that is where you are. You are such an inspiration to people. You could actually be, the light in people's tunnel that they're actually striving to find now. I don't even realise it yet.
Thank you. That's really kind. I get the school yesterday when the teacher said, that talk you gave to the kids will be a pivotal moment in their lives. Yeah. And to be that, I was like,
you don't realise how powerful it is. I've started to realise how powerful it is.
Yeah,
yeah. You know what I mean? And it's not something that I band about so much. I certainly don't talk about it on my social media. Yeah. But when you get the messages, and you will start to get the messages from young people, and I get loads of messages from young people going, amazing. Cheers, Phil, watch this video, and that's why I've changed my mind about this, and I've and you're like, ooh.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, I get a lot of my daughter loves you, my daughter's hero, and I just think, this is why I do it. Yeah. And then equally you get the trolls, unfortunately, that
you'll always get the haters.
Yeah. And annoyingly they shout louder. They do shout a lot louder than those positive messages, but I do sit back sometimes and think, I don't like everyone. So why should I try and get everyone to like me?
All your followers are not fans.
No.
That's for sure. You know what I mean? But I'm living in your head rent-free. Do you know what I mean? I'm living in your head rent-free.
True.
I don't even know. I don't even care.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That just gets me going. I've got skin that's that thick. It's like a whale. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah.
I don't care anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the best way. Yeah. So that inspirational piece, I think, moving into media and TV, I think would be really rewarding, and I'd really enjoy that. If that doesn't work out, the Alps is my second home. We've got a van. I go down there all the time, fly out there for weekends quite regularly.
Yeah, beautiful. Whereabouts do you go?
We go to Chamonix a lot. Chamonix, second. We know the mountains really, really well. We're driving to the Dolomites this Christmas for the first time out there. Got brand new van, which was good. But
what kind of van you got?
I've got a Citroen Relay, and my partner's got a Mercedes Sprinter, and his is really posh, so we're going to take his.
I've got a Transit Custom, which is done in the back. Yeah. Really nicely done in the back, like, do you know what I mean? But I love it. That's my payoff. That's my... Yeah. I can go anywhere at the weekend, or, do you know what I mean, further afield when I want to.
We drove our Transit Custom we had last year to Norway. I drove it to novices last year with the Marines, and it broke down the way, and it was pretty terrible. And minus 36 in Sweden, it didn't like it. But
what's a Ford stand for? Found on roadsides and ditches.
Yeah.
I broke down so many times one year. The AA actually followed me on Twitter.
No, I swear. We're just going to be just in case, but we're pre-positioning. Yeah. The Alps second home. I'd really like to move there. And I kind of always forget to say this. If the mountain rescue pilot out there would be insane. I think if I want to move out there and outdoor adventure doesn't work out, or
they're always screaming out for pilots over there, even for these people who are using wingsuits. There's pilots out there. Do you know what I mean? There's always hours can be picked up if you've got the right ticks in the box, for sure.
Absolutely. I think I've been into the Chamonix search and rescue place where, how do I become a helicopter pilot for you? And they said you need to be a French citizen.
I know Bear's out there every year jumping, like, do you know what I mean?
That would be.
He loves it.
Insane. I messaged Nims Die last year.
And was just did he get back to you?
Yeah, he did. He replied.
Well done, nice one, son.
And he was like, I always need a helicopter pilot for jumping and stuff. So when you leave, hit me up and we could always hire you. But I don't know if that's kind of something I want to. I want to have
Bear?
I'm not. No.
I think he follows you, doesn't he? He does follow you.
He does follow me. I did message him a couple of years ago. Oh, thank you. I don't know. I think the reward of search and rescue in the Alps would be insane. Like I could potentially do really cool stuff with jumping and adventure, but search and rescue with somebody in trouble in the Alps, really skillful flying. You've got the wind, you've got the turbulence, you've got the snow, you've got all the snow. Proper alley flying. Yeah. That's if that would be really amazing if I try and get my foot in the door. I'd have to learn fluent French. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. I'd have to get through the being a British citizen and all of that. But that would be if I really want to continue helicopter flying after these 6 years.
But you have got so much to do in your life. You haven't got enough time to be talking to Big Phil, have you? You know what I mean? That's ridiculous.
There's a lot I want to do, and there's a lot I've done. I'm super fortunate, and I put it all down to my parents to giving me the upbringing and such a plethora of skills and sports.
Yeah, they sound like wonderful people. They really do. And I love the hard working element. I love the fact your old man's gone, tell you what, I'm doing that. Do you know what I mean? Fruit and veg.
Yeah.
Bit of that.
Yeah. Very much so.
Some of that.
Yeah. Super fortunate upbringing, and then they've just put me on a path to carve my way.
Well, listen, you are carving your way out. You're doing tremendous stuff. I've loved having you on. It's been really good fun. I hope you'll become a friend of our family and the show.
Thank you.
All right, I'd love to see you again and know what you're doing and keep up to speed.
Thank you.
We can do anything for you. We really will. And just keep doing what you're doing because you're a marvellous person.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks very much, Phil. Really thanks for having me. Cheers.
Take care.
Awesome.
All right.